It's Talking Ghosts with your talking hosts,
Lisa
and Sean, and here we are on a very special episode. We're out and about, and we're joined by the wonderful Mok.
Hello.
Hi, Mok.
Hi, Mok.
Hello.
Thank you for allowing us to come to your, gorgeous house stroke mini castle, baby castle.
Yes.
So here we are on the outskirts of Abergavenny in South Wales, and we sort of came across Mok a couple of months ago, saw him on TikTok. He mentioned the word ghost and energy activeness in his house, and we thought, need to speak to Mok, and here we are. So Mok, thanks again for allowing us to come to your sort of home. To start, do you want to tell us a bit about the history of the house, because it goes back quite a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, firstly, you're very welcome. It's lovely to see you here. I've been contacted lots over the years that we've lived here by mediums or ghost hunters in inverted commas, but there was just something about the way you talked about the other world that I thought, these are the right people. So that's lovely to have you come and visit us in the baby castle. So I have lived here with my husband for about 4 years now. Originally, from my accent, you can tell I'm not Welsh, although I spent lots of holidays in Wales. I loved it so much that I did my A-level geography project in Wales, and I was delighted when I fell in love with a Welshman and had to keep going over into the Rhondda Valley to have lunch with his family all the time. So we originally weren't buying this house. I love historic homes. We were in a historic home in Gloucestershire where we met, but we were buying a different home which was connected with Lady Jane Grey's family. But in the process of buying that, we spotted this house in Country Life. My husband said, oh, I'd love to live there, but we were already buying somewhere else. So we decided not to progress. We couldn't buy the house that we were supposed to buy, and this house suddenly came back on the market 2 days later, and we bought it within days. So you're in a house that I think we're supposed to be in. It's originally Elizabethan, we believe. Most of the records have been lost in time. It was probably a dower house for the big stately. We were built in what was the original orchard, or it's sort of a local gentry house. Maybe a small farm. Our bedroom and our snug are part of an original hayloft, but Elizabethan, and then it was sort of poshed up by the Victorians. They popped a turret on, made it a bit grander, and it got the title of Little Castle. But it's Elizabethan house with a turret. I love it. I've been lovingly restoring it gently over the last 4 years. It had great bones. It just needed a little bit of tender, loving care and a checkbook. And that's what I've been doing over the last few years.
That sounds amazing. And the house and the baby castle is very, very nice.
It's amazing.
It is. It's something that you do see on TV, you know, sort of on Country Life, etc. So you said you live here with your husband, plus some other guests as well.
I believe so. Not just the dogs, but I have been the people we bought from, who actually built a house in next door. They were very clear that they would only hand this house over to a custodian. They had other offers for the house that they had turned down. They, like me, they had a connection, a very personal connection to this house. And the owner told me that she had experienced things here. I won't tell you what they are yet because they might come up. And I think it was very honest of her to say in the discovery of purchasing, there are other people who live in this house who aren't alive. I think many people would run a mile, but because I think they got the cut of my jib, they knew that I was going to be fine with that. Yeah. But no, I don't believe we're alone. But I never saw anything until recently, and I'd like to just hear what you feel and what you sense in the house.
That's quite unusual. I think you lived here 4 years, and it's only recently you've started to
Other people have, so neighbours have, previous owners have. I have experienced things that I sort of talked away, but I only physically saw what I believe is a ghost in December of last year. Before that, I heard things. What I did when we arrived originally, the first day, I went and stood in our bedroom, which was originally a hayloft in the stables. And I said, hello, we're new here. You've been here a lot longer than us. You'll probably be here a lot longer than we will. So when we're gone, it will still be your home. I just really hope that we can rub alongside each other, because this is your home, it's going to be ours for a bit. So let's get on, and it's lovely to have you here with us. That's all I said. And I hope that way of addressing them directly in a respectful way, I didn't know if I was being, fed a pup or not, but saying something to them, I've never had any negative feelings, slightly unnerving, but never anything negative, because I think if there is something here, it's about they're another flatmate and you have to respect your flatmate and not steal from their, shelf in the fridge.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to completely turn everything you know upside down now.
Oh, hurrah!
Because first of all, you're talking about on the stairs, aren't you?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because first of all, you're not connecting with everybody that's here. Okay. And what I mean by that is some of this is just imagery of things that have gone by.
Right.
And some of it's not. Okay.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so you can get sort of frozen images in time, but they're not actually hauntings or spirits. They're just sort of time slips or something, aren't they?
This is absolutely a battlefield.
Right.
Or was.
Oh, right.
Okay. Because I'm going back way further than you're talking about here. This week I was visited by a gentleman on a courtyard. He described it as a courtyard. It is the courtyard that you've got out there.
Oh, by the pond in the Wisteria Walk.
By the pond, yeah, over there. And he told me his name was King John.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, wow.
I took a look at him. So here's the first thing. I'm terrible at history. Okay, I kind of know the kings and queens that everybody else knows, but going a bit further back, I'm absolutely useless.
Because I know Queen Elizabeth and King James would have seen this house and did travel to the big stadium, so that would have been in their sort of view. But beyond Queen Elizabeth I, no one, as I am aware of, has any real connection here.
Okay, so I asked him what he wanted. He was making excuses for a lot of things. Now, bear in mind, I didn't actually realise who he was. I'm going to bring Phil in on this because he'll fill you in a little bit on this. And I asked him what he was doing here, and he was talking about battles. Battles here.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to give this over to you because you knew more about this than me. I had to ask you.
Right. Well, everybody thinks of King John and the Magna Carta and freedoms and rights, but he actually did have problems with Wales. I think it was 1211. There was a Welsh uprising which he was involved in suppressing. But his big, I suppose, major part and his major crime was that he took Llewellyn ap Iorwerth and the other kings of Wales. He took a number of hostages, including their sons, who were about 12 at the time. And when the uprising came again, they were all in Nottingham Castle, obviously as in Sheriff of Nottingham, Robin Hood, and he had them all hung one after the other, hanged one after the other, and apparently the screams were going all across Nottingham. And so his history with Wales is checkered.
Well, we're in the marshland here, which is very disputed. This has been England, this has been Wales. We're surrounded by a number of castles that were built by the English to suppress the locals. So it's got quite a bloody history, this area.
And Phil and I complimented each other because I bring in the information and he's like, well, that makes no sense. And then you kind of do the digging and you say, okay, maybe it does make sense. Now, this is connected because the other thing I've been hearing all week, and it woke me up from sleep, is, do you watch the Hunger Games?
I've seen the show.
Do you know the song, the Hanging Tree song?
If you played it or hummed it, I would. But
oh God, I'm going to sing it now. Are you coming to the tree? That one. Okay. I'm not going to pain anybody's ears by going on. When we've done you, have a listen to it. That was playing over and over again. It was been playing all week. And they were taunting me, not in a nasty way, but they were taunting me. They go, "Are you coming?" Because it's the hanging tree. So, do you know anything about hanging tree?
I know that hanging is connected to this area because our local pub was where hundreds of prisoners from the 1600s were hung and tried. And because whoever lives in this house is a lord of the area, the Lord of Glenbark. So I've heard people say that they might have been tried in this house and taken up there to be hung.
Well, sorry, I'll stop you. They were absolutely tried here in this house. Over that side, upstairs. That's why I said, I think you thought I was going to say animals, but there were people kept there. And I can see bars on windows, so It doesn't mean there are doors here with bars on windows. It's just my cue, because we work in metaphors, that people were held captive here before they were hung or before they were taken on elsewhere.
Well, it would have been this and that building would be the only two buildings in the area. So maybe before they went to meet their end, they would have been kept in the stables here as a place just to store them en route.
Absolutely.
That's my bedroom, gosh.
So as soon as I got up there, I got really out of breath. I felt like somebody was choking me. Okay.
Is that because the misery and pain that they experienced, we were tapping into?
We were tapping into.
I mean, I have a lovely experience of that room. I think it's a beautiful, gorgeous,
as we've
wonderful
said before, room. I'm very factual as a medium, so I'm picking up the facts of what I feel have gone on here. It doesn't mean that's going to affect, because we had a little conversation about this before we started, it doesn't mean that's going to affect you at all. They're just trying to show me. They're not, the people that are trying to show me this are not unhappy in spirit. They're just trying to, they know I want the information, so they're giving me the information as best they can give me the information. Okay, I don't feel like you need to do anything to that room, but there is a problem. I know you've said, full disclosure, there's a problem with you sleeping. I do think you need to set some intentions up there about who comes through and who doesn't, and set a time as to when they do and when they don't. Because there's a lot, when you have this kind of thing, when there's a lot of misery in passing, there's a lot of, it brings a lot of energy.
It's interesting because they don't, you mentioned that I do hear stuff and this sort of, they muck about, but it's not when my husband's here. So when he is away travelling for work, I hear things that I don't hear when he's here.
Spirit are very respectful, and because you said your husband doesn't really believe.
No, absolutely
so
not, no.
The spirit are not upset with him for not believing. They're just very respectful. He doesn't believe. He doesn't really want a part of this, and so that they will respect that, and that's what's going on here. That's why you hear it, and he doesn't. Right. This was a battleground. They keep on showing me a battleground. They show me some people in armour, some people not.
Gosh.
They show me local people, and King John comes through very apologetic, I want to say, which is, and I know it's mind-blowing to think of it like that, but you would be surprised at the people that will come through. He's definitely the oldest, the furthest back I've ever brought through. They tend to be about 200-300 years, but you've brought back, you've seen Roman.
Yeah, Roman and sort of 600, 700, 800 years, 1,000
but
years.
He's definitely the furthest back I've been. But because houses and locations are important, they anchor things, they anchor spirit, they anchor events, and there was absolutely something here before.
Well, interesting, you asked me about that, and I have just remembered that when we looked for planning permission to put a garden room in the paddock, they said no, partly because they believed there were people living in the paddock 1,000 years ago.
Right. Okay.
And we'd have to do a historical dig. It was a prisoner of war camp during the Second World War, but I've never found flint or anything like that. I've got friends who live in sort of larger country houses who found, Bronze Age.
Yeah.
I've found nothing. Of nothing at all. A few horseshoes. Yeah,
it's not that. It's older, and that's what they want to point me to. And I think they. God, do you hear that Cockney bit in my accent? There's somebody with a Cockney accent talking to you.
It's not me.
Because but okay, they tell me you know what you know. You need to look into the rest of it, because there is more than you know here. I know the lady is buried here.
Gladys, yeah.
Who
was born and died here. Died in our snug.
But there are other people buried here as well. But it wasn't a graveyard. It was battles and buried on site, not carried off anywhere.
Oh.
Okay. So I suspect if you dug up or got, what's that programme with the guy from Blackadder?
Like time travel type thing, is it? When they go and dig and...
Oh yeah, where they dig kind of, I suspect they would find...
Lord Spencer did that recently on Channel 4 as well.
It's not a burial ground or anything, it's not like that, it's nothing like that. I wouldn't
disturb them.
No, but it's nothing like that, but they're definitely, they're showing me, because it brings that brings its own energy. Can you date Harold? Sorry, you may know this. Harold.
1066.
Yeah, because
The arrow.
the arrow in the eye, because they keep on showing the arrow in the eye.
1066 was when he died, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Conquest.
And when did John?
He was 12, wasn't he?
He was 1211 was 1215 was Magna Carta, 1211 was the Welsh Uprising.
Yeah, because they keep on showing the arrow in the eye. So there's stuff to look into for him as well.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. And I'm not a great historian, but it's I should be better really with what I do. Okay. You're wrong about being. You're right about being a custodian, but you've got the balance a little bit wrong here with who's in charge. Because you are in charge, and you shouldn't give too much over.
Okay. Oh,
okay.
right.
Yes, be respectful. We're always respectful spirit. But this is you. This is your tenancy almost.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You know, so I know it doesn't scare you. Actually, they are telling me it does scare you a little bit.
Well, no, I don't think I'm scared. I just
unsettled.
I am respectful. I mean, when I do plan major renovations, I go to the tree where Gladys is, and I let her know what I'm planning to do, because one of her domestic staff still lives in Abergavenny. I really want to meet her, but I still go to that tree and I say, right, okay, so we're going to, make the turret an Airbnb, or what do you think of that? Or I'm going to put lovely tapestries up there. Just because she obviously loved the place and never wants to leave.
Yeah. But it's yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, completely. Yeah, absolutely.
And
I'll never leave.
They're telling me that. Who's the lady that died with the head almost stroked like brain tumour? Do you know of this person?
No, I know Gladys died in her 90s, as I said, in the snug of old age. That's all I know.
Right. Because I do feel like this is her. But I do feel like there was some... Can you ask? Would you know? Because they are making me feel like it was some kind of stroke in the end.
Okay, I'll try and find out. She's walked in this room. People have stood outside on the street and seen her walking up and down here. I've never, ever seen her, felt her, anything.
She's here. She's a little bit frustrated with you. She's okay. She's quite a serious person. I don't know whether you know anything about her personality.
She married the head of MI6, and they used to have meetings where you are about German invasion of Wales by that fireplace.
Right.
Where you are now is where they would sit. Maybe she would not be in it because she was a woman or whatever, but I don't know.
Yeah, but she's quite a serious person. Okay. She's telling me she was involved.
That's nice to know.
Yeah.
I wonder if she was kept away out of the room. I like that. It was her house. He moved to her family home, so hopefully she was in charge.
Okay. This is a bit personal to you now. So if you want us, because we do this and something, but if you want us to cut this out, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
We'll cut it out if you're not. Okay.
Is she homophobic?
We don't even really see, like, they give us male, female, but they often talk about male energy, female energy and spirit. They don't really, there's no kind of...
I was wondering if there was any judgment from the spirit world about...
Absolutely.
This was sold in 1872 as a gentleman's residence, and I always think it is again.
Yeah. No, there's actually, people are very what's the word? Androgynous. They tend to come through as quite androgynous through in spirit. But also they can look male and female, but they never go, I'm male, I'm female. They
I'm glad there's no transphobia or anything else in the afterlife.
Okay. She's telling me you should be doing more for yourself and for your situation. Okay? And I'm not gonna, you don't have to tell me what that is. I'm just gonna give you the message. And you can be, there is more to it, I will carry on. Stop being so apologetic. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. laughing now. She's very serious, but she's laughing. She said he thinks I'm not in on conversations, but I am. But you also need to protect your peace with spirit. And they are around when you and your husband are around. They don't show themselves so much when he's there. But there is a lot of almost unwanted energy, she's saying, with the two of you, with
Unwanted
spirit.
energy?
Unwanted energy from spirit. She said you don't want the kind of energy because you're too open. You're too open. And I thought I'd tell anybody that because we're kind of quite open people, aren't we?
Yeah,
we talked about this last
closed
week,
down,
didn't we?
isn't it?
To close, but you're actually a little bit too open with spirit here. And we'll talk about that maybe at the end as to what you do about that and
Great.
whether you see a difference.
Okay.
But it's all around this being your space and what you want to do with it.
I feel incredibly at home and comfortable
Yeah.
here. Like I feel like I was absolutely
Do you feel like you were living
supposed
here
to buy
before?
it. Well, I feel as soon as I
Because
saw
you
the
were.
house, I felt like home. And it's interesting that we lost it, but it came back. We were then in a position to move very quickly, and I have never not felt like this is the place I'm supposed to be. It's Wales, it's Elizabethan. I was Gloucestershire, Georgia. You know, I always laugh. I'm supposed to live in a Georgian house, and I live in a medieval house with small windows.
Yeah.
But it is where
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm going to copy Gladys. I'm going to have a little bit of me left here.
Yeah,
But you say I lived here before.
you lived here
I don't
before.
have any recollection of that.
No, but you feel it.
I feel very
'Cause they're
connected to
telling
this
me you
place.
feel it.
I feel
Yeah.
so incredibly connected. Like when I'm very into gardening. We've got 2 acres here. I'm renovating it. When I put my hands in the soil, I feel almost like the roots of a tree. It feels completely like my home.
Yeah. Do you understand the teaching connection as well?
Yes, it was
Okay.
the village school.
Right.
It was the village school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what she's telling me, but I didn't know that. But she's talking about you teaching as well. Now, I'm not talking about going into the local comp.
I teach at a business school. I teach on the
Right.
MBA class. I sometimes do it here
okay.
from this
Right.
table. I teach MBA students.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, it's because she's talking about you teaching.
Right.
But it wasn't kids.
Yeah, no, these are the executives.
Right. Okay. Do you understand the? I'm treading carefully here. Do you understand the imposter syndrome sometimes a little bit with that?
Anyone who's successful, I think, hopefully remains humble by having an element of imposter syndrome. So yeah, probably. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And you need to take that away. This woman's very forthright. You need to lose that because you should be going further
Right.
than
Okay.
you are, and you're hesitating with that. Do you understand?
I think what's interesting is I am moving out of my one career into another. So
Yeah.
I am now ending. I run a company.
Yeah.
It's been relatively successful. I teach, as I said, at business school. I am now going part-time in a couple of months, and I will be transitioning out of that world. It's interesting. What the new world means to me, you know, I talked about doing an Airbnb and my social media and writing a book, but I don't know. No,
I think
something
they're doing
else.
that.
Something
Right,
else.
okay. The Airbnb, they're doing that.
Are they really?
I'm not telling you what to do.
Wow.
Because Spirit are telling us, it doesn't mean we have to
Because
listen.
it was before, for 23
Um,
years, it was rented as
yeah.
the tower was rented. Maybe they didn't like all the people coming in and out.
No, it's not that. It's for you. It's not right for you.
Oh, right, okay.
Because it's going to bother your energy. Because you've got this very pure energy.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Now, going forward, you know, some people, I always look at these things like a big tree, and some people are over there, some people are there, some people are down there. But you're meant to be climbing vertically in what you're doing. You are going to be a successful author, and you need to be putting your time in that. But it's also educational. It's not just about where you're living. It's to do with what you're doing now and putting it into a book.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I have
That.
done one. There is one.
Right.
There is
okay.
one out there. I have
There's
written a
another
book on
one.
innovation leadership, but maybe there's another one. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
There's
Well,
another one.
I will see
Okay.
if the spirit
Yeah.
takes me.
And this lady's very, very serious. What I will say, we talk about when we've been in previous houses, the last house, as an example, we went into, I've got my team, my spirit team around me. One of them is my grandmother, who's here now. Okay, and she likes that. I said to her before we went to this house, you know this story, and I said, right, we're going now. You come in. I was on my way getting into the car. She said, no, this is not for me. She said, this is higher beings only in this house. Okay. And I went, oh, okay. I was like, I'm not panicking, that's fine. What that tells me is that there's such a kind of vibrational energy in that house that we went to, that it's not to be kind of messed around with. In the end, she did slip in, but there were definitely higher beings there, weren't there? I'm not feeling that here. Okay? Which is lovely, because when you have really higher beings, it means they're really working hard to control the energy. Okay? But you need to control the energy of this house. You do, and you've left it too much to other people and spirit to control that. And you need to bring in what you need to bring in.
Okay.
Okay. Do you understand the fire?
The fire?
Yeah, there was a fire here.
Well, where we are seated now was quite an important fireplace during the Second World War. There had lots of strategic conversations around it.
You know.
And that fireplace there, the big fireplace,
Yeah, it's not
that was
They're
hidden.
showing me another one.
So there was one. We could just see the hearth, but apparently they would have meetings to say what happens if the Germans invade Wales, and they did plans here because this was also a prisoner of war camp, our gardens.
Yeah. There is nothing left of the prisoner of war energy.
That's nice to know. I don't feel anything. I never
nothing
hear a soldier or
left at
anything.
all.
No.
It's all going back 1,000 years.
Right, okay.
You know. Okay, so here, where you are now, this is where you must write your book.
Right.
And do your thinking. Because what has been left is the residue energy of those meetings. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
And in there is for non-serious stuff. And I'm pointing out for our podcasters who I'm pointing to a different room. There's a table in a different room.
Yeah,
It's
so that's in the turret kitchen.
Yes, it's for less serious encounters. But when you're trying to concentrate and do things, this is where
Not my office upstairs.
I want you to sit.
Okay, because I love working at this table.
Yeah.
It's interesting, we took a bedroom out, converted it to a gorgeous office for me.
Yeah.
And I keep getting drawn to work here in the Great Hall. And I'm not supposed to, I'm supposed to be working upstairs.
No, forget it.
Okay.
This is where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And sat here.
Okay.
What was
Looking
interesting, when we went around the house before we sat down to record, we went up into Moks' office. Now, you said that people get a strange energy.
Oh, my husband's office.
Yes.
Yeah, that office, yeah.
No, you, and then Lisa,
Yeah.
you didn't feel anything in
No,
there.
nothing at all.
But I did. So
Yeah.
when I walked into the room, I was standing in the doorway, there's a mirror on the wall, and it just started moving.
Mm.
Yeah.
After I was standing still,
Yeah.
and I had the tingles,
Yeah.
and it's like I have
But
to leave.
we brought things into that
Right.
room though. We didn't that as we said earlier on, we brought things into that room. It's
That's
just,
interesting because a very good friend of mine from university, who does live in the Georgian house I'm supposed to live in, well,
Right.
not really. She came here and she walked into my husband's office and said, I have to get out of this room.
Yeah.
I'm completely oppressed by the energy in here.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh. And I didn't tell her anything about the history of the house. She didn't know any of that stuff.
No, it's often not as fancy as you think it is. And we say that all the time, don't we? We say we're going to go to people's houses now, we're going to be very, very boring. But it's not that I'm saying there's a graveyard there, but graveyards are the same thing. There's a lack of energy in a graveyard. So when you go into a graveyard, you can feel that there's something different. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But it's because there's a kind of almost a lack of energy there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what people are picking up on. It's the same in that room, and it's because it's your husband's room. It's because he doesn't want this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so there is and spirit are, even though he wouldn't like it, spirit are protecting his energy. You know, because it's all about permission. It's an absolutely permission-based system. But there's a crossness with you from this lady. She's a little bit cross with you because you're not having this as your own. You need to make it more your own than you are. You're giving too much latitude to spirit.
It's interesting because we are surrounded almost entirely by things I've inherited from my late parents and my grandparents. And
Yeah.
my husband sometimes says you're like in it's almost like the Mock family museum. There's a quote. Who is it? Michael Heseltine? No, Alan Clark said about Michael Heseltine. Oh, well, he's not really one of us because he had to buy his own furniture. My husband always laughs at me when I say that. But most of like this was my late brothers. You know, these are late brothers, late mothers. You know, all those. They're all, yeah.
So
Interestingly, a very famous Irish author owned the chairs that you're sitting in when you talk about writing. Sean O'Casey owned these chairs.
Phil's face there. Do you want to tell Mark what you studied?
I did English language and literature as my first degree, and actually I was doing a paper on Sean O'Casey.
Oh wow! Well, this was his dining room
Every
table,
time you mention something
chairs.
like
This was his sideboard,
Oh, wow.
and his table is in my flat in London. Yeah, it was my late brother's.
Yeah. So Phil's very into his poetry
Wow.
and
You're sitting in Sean O'Casey's chair.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
that's made his day. You weren't even going to come.
Right, the silver tassel yours.
But yeah, okay. This is where you need to be writing. This is where you need to be going forward. This is where you're going to get your ideas. This house is yours. Yes, you're right about being a custodian, but we're all custodians of our own houses. But you are now the owner of this house, so you decide what happens here. You don't let spirit decide, because you are a little bit, okay? And this lady's very, very serious when she's telling you this, okay?
Does she like me?
She does like you,
Okay.
but she's almost like wants to
She
give you
sounds
a bit of
annoyed at me. I'm like,
no,
oh
no,
gosh.
but she almost wants to
Naughty
give you a
boy.
bit of a shake, like, you know,
Right.
because you need to step into what you need to be doing.
Okay.
She's also talking about your fame and fortune.
Okay.
And I'm feeling that you're not really interested in fame.
So I have done some media stuff before, and I have
Yeah.
approached quite a lot. There's one thing I would like to do,
Right.
and I'm not going to say what it is. She would know
Yeah.
very much what it is, and I've come incredibly close to it, and the opportunity might be there again. I'd be interested to know if she has any thoughts
She's
on
talking
that.
about your fame and fortune, and
Right.
you need to step into it.
Okay.
Because
Oh,
you're
right.
not stepping into it, because it's common
she's right.
misconception that it'll come knocking on our door, but it often doesn't. We need to step into that energy. Do you understand the comedy?
Comedy.
Yeah.
People say I'm hilarious at Campus
Yeah.
Christmas, but I don't know about comedy. No.
Yeah, she's talking about how you're very, very funny.
Oh right.
And
Yeah.
the comedy
Okay.
side of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's a kind of contrast to what you were saying. She sounds annoyed with me, but she's going to
Okay.
say you're very funny. And whatever you do will be with amusement. It won't have a serious edge. It'll be comedic. I'm
Okay.
not talking getting up and doing stand-up.
Oh Lord, no.
I'm talking about
Presentation style.
presentation style.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that would
Will
make
be-
sense. That was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will be funny. Okay.
I don't take myself very serious.
No. Okay. Do you understand the Jewish side to your family?
I do. Yes. Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you understand the cooking?
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. You okay?
Hmm. My father was in part of the Allies in the Second World War, and he went out to be in the Control Commission. And in Germany, the Allies weren't feeding the Germans or their children, and they were starving. His role was to bring the Jews back from the concentration camps and rehouse them.
Right. Okay.
Saw dreadful things, went to Belsen, saw dreadful things. But he would go, he felt that the children of the Germans were innocent and shouldn't die starving in the streets. So he would go with his friend and shoot rabbits and make stew and hand it out to starving German children. And my mother told me that a couple of times people turned up at their home in London, adults with children, and they were the children who'd survived, and my father had fed, and they wanted to show the children the man who kept him alive or her alive. So yeah, so I do understand that, and my father spoke Yiddish. We used to go to the synagogue on a Friday.
Yeah.
There's a very strong. I'm an Irish Catholic.
Yeah.
I'm not Jewish,
No,
but there's a very
that's
strong
why I
Jewish
said
connection.
you understand the Jewish.
I'm
because
very
I
close
don't
to my
feel
late
like you
father,
were-
so that's why I'm a bit upset. Sorry, just
No,
that.
that's
I
okay.
wanted to know if I feel
Yeah.
my parents have come with me. My you know,
That's
I
what
lost
we're
them
gonna
very
go on to.
quickly.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't expect to get
No,
ridiculous
that's
and
okay.
cry.
It's common, isn't it? More,
Is it
more common
really?
than you think. Yeah. Okay. You can't lose the Jewish in you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's saying.
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely. I'm very proud of what my father
Yeah.
did, and you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little complicated at the moment in current world events, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We have Jewish family as well. I have Jewish family.
Yes, my father spoke Yiddish, and you know,
yeah.
I would go to the synagogue, and
Yeah.
I have a great affinity with Jewish
Yeah.
people. I always talk to them about
Yeah.
Jewish history. I was taught it by
I
my
think
father.
Many things can be true at the same time.
Absolutely.
With things. Whether this man or not, he's coming in quite a gentle way with you.
Mm.
Okay. This is your
What
dad.
part?
No,
My dad.
Your dad.
Hi.
Okay. And it's making me feel like he wouldn't have been completely like that when he was here. But he's deliberately coming in gentle, and he's telling me you'll understand why he's doing that.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
And I, as Sean knows and Phil knows very, very well, when I'm starting to take my time, it's because things are sensitive. Okay, so and it's not me taking my time really, it's them taking their time to articulate what they want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know this is going to sound cliche, but I have to repeat what he's saying, and I don't mean it to sound cliche because it sounded quite cliche to me. But he's proud of you and everything you are and everything you do.
Mm.
And you are not to think anything else. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm. That's very nice to hear.
And he's not explaining to me why that would be, that he would want to put it like that, but he wants to put emphasis on the everything you are and everything you do. And despite everything, you are you.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, despite the hurdles.
That would make sense in terms of his belief system, and my belief system are quite different. Yeah.
We talk a lot about, in the podcast, we talk a lot about that what we believe here will not be what we believe in spirit, and not what spirit is about. And, you know, as you said before we started, you know, you quite interested in religion, but obviously you don't none of us would recognise that in spirit. We don't see that those kind of attitudes in spirit, and he is not telling me what he's talking about. I want to emphasise that. Okay, this is for you. Okay.
Thank you.
He boasts about you in spirit, and he said that's very important for you to know.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay, that wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
I need them to help me with something over the next 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, just let them know. Something life-changing.
Sorry, he's paused. This is not me pausing, because as everybody knows me knows I run at the mouth. So he's taking time to pause with you. Okay. Can you feel something around you?
I always do. I literally,
But it's
when
from the
people
back.
die, I say they never leave you.
Yeah, but it's almost like somebody's
I have
standing
felt my
behind you.
father hug me and
Yes.
smelt him and felt him.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what he's talking about.
He does that. I
Yes.
have felt that.
Yeah. But he's almost saying he's coming in behind you now, and
Yeah.
he's doing that
Mm-hmm.
like that, so his hands are here.
Right. Oh.
Okay, not like
Yeah.
that looked really bad. Those that you can't see, I put my hands by my throat. His hands are here.
He wouldn't do that.
No, he wouldn't do that. Okay. We are a product of our upbringing, and you have bucked every trend, and that is to be commended.
Mm.
Okay. I'm trying to get him to be a bit cheerier now, because he's kind of taken a little bit of a... He wouldn't have believed in this kind of thing.
In this life.
No, in this spirituality. He's telling me this wouldn't have been his cup of tea.
Well, the things he saw,
Yeah.
I imagine, made him quite hard.
Yeah. And isn't it great that you can feel him and talk to him?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, well, he's just telling me that. He's telling me you talk to him, and especially in the kitchen.
I think everywhere, but yeah.
But he's telling me, he's showing me cups of tea and stirring
Right.
and chatting. almost over a cup of tea.
I do chat to them. I will say to my mother, my father, my brother, right, I've got a really big meeting.
Yeah.
I need you to show up, please.
Your mum is here, but she's really a couple of steps behind.
Wow.
And that's for a reason.
Right.
Okay, he's done it because he really needed to come through and say
Yeah.
what he needed
He didn't
to
say
to
goodbye,
you.
she did.
Right, okay. There's a need for him and not for her so much. It's not that she's not here, it's just there's a need for him to speak here. Okay? He enjoys your conversations. Okay? And so carry on.
Okay, I will. Yeah.
Okay. Do you understand the jealousy?
As a what, a concept or something that's impacted in my life?
Impacted in your life.
Yes, I would say yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because they're telling me, and it's not your dad now, okay, it's telling me about the jealousy that's impacted you. And just starting to rise above it now.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Yeah, I think I have some, my brother and I had our issues at times, and I think sometimes people can look at my life and make assumptions,
Yes.
not very nice assumptions about how I vote, what I believe on immigration, what I believe, all those sorts of things, or they can dismiss me as white privilege when I have in my life lost everything, been homeless and lived on £20 a week.
Yeah.
I just worked really hard.
But the jealousy, but he's talking about, is your dad back in now? He's saying there's a need to explore it and throw it.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Just putting it on the back burner keeps it on the back burner and keeps it
okay,
there.
all right.
So open it up.
Right.
Show me like a little box. Open it up, take it out, have a look at it, put it back and get rid. Not of relationships, he's not talking about that, but just of the emotion. Do you understand that?
Yeah, okay, I get that.
Okay. Yeah.
I will chat to you more afterwards.
Yes,
but
definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. You'll find that when a message wants to come across, it doesn't matter. We could have kind of every king and queen for the last 1,000 years in the living room, or what do you call this? The Great Hall.
Great Hall, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they called it. I think it's ridiculous. It's a large sitting room.
No. But it doesn't matter if somebody wants to bring something through and they feel it's important. They will do that and bar everything else out. Okay. So once they've done that, then we can move on. Okay. You're going to write a book about the house.
Right. Okay. That doesn't surprise me.
They're showing me the book.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, that's good.
And we talk about this a lot, don't we? In Spirit, the things that we haven't started yet have already happened and been done. So they're showing me the book. Okay, that has been written about this house. But they are talking about shooting fish in a barrel, doing Victorians, doing King James, you said? Did you say King James?
King James and Queen Elizabeth I.
Yes. That's shooting fish in a barrel. This needs to go back further and you need to dig further.
Okay.
And you will find the information is out there, you just need to find it.
Okay.
But that's part of your job.
Because there is nothing. What's interesting, the stately home, which we were originally part of, they have no records of this house at all, which I just find really odd. They've got, they have a minuet room with records. There is nothing on this place. It's gone.
Okay, have you tried the church? Because they're showing me church, that's all I'm thinking.
I mean, yes, and I did actually have the church records at one point because I was going to kind of categorise them. Had to get them back, I was so busy. There is a connection, and I think probably the naming of the building, which I won't mention, they are connected through that.
Yes, because they're showing me a church. When you said you can't find it, they're showing me the church. They're also showing me somewhere in London, a museum type place in London, and getting in touch with them. They're not showing me which one.
Oh, it'd be very helpful. Come on, it's not the V&A.
Victoria and Albert.
No,
it can't be.
Because what's quite interesting when you show us around Mok, in the turret, the bed. Do you want to tell us?
So we've got, it's a very unusual bed, and it was bought by a previous owner. But it's got images, it's got the Tudor rose on it, it's got images of Anne of Cleves and Henry VIII. We believe part of it was either a gift or part of the marriage bed or a celebration bed of the marriage of King Henry VIII to Anne of Cleves, who of course he famously didn't like. And then there's bits of kind of fake Victorian Georgian stuff on the top. and we believe also parts that may have been stolen from a church during the Reformation, all kind of put together in this quite unusual 4-poster bed.
Okay. They're showing me, is it Somerset House, the one with the big lawns and the grounds? Phil, I'm asking you.
Somerset House is where King James I would have lived as his palace.
Oh.
It's now got the court hold and things like that, and they do. But that's where that's where him and his wife would have been king or queen. They didn't have Buckingham Palace then; it was Somerset House. What it was called then, I don't know.
It used to be the place where they kept records. I think they've moved it now. I think it's in Kew now, but Somerset House.
The National Archives are in Kew, yeah.
Yeah, but the Somerset House used to be where all the births and deaths were before that.
Because they're showing me Somerset House, and they show me files and records. So I feel like it's up to you to unpick. I feel like it might be both. Going to Kew and going to Somerset House for different reasons, but there's a need for you to go there. I see you there. Okay.
It's really weird because I keep being drawn to go to Somerset House. I have no reason to go.
There you go.
It keeps coming up, and every now and then I go, I should go to Somerset House. I don't know why.
Yeah, there you go.
That honest to God's truth, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
The last few years I've been going, why do I go to Somerset? Why would I go there? What would I do? I don't want to go.
But you can make appointments with the historians.
But it's nowadays it's the court hold, and they do sort of ice skating and things. It's like I know James I and his wife, was it Henrietta or Catherine Beganza? I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah, I think it is.
So wow.
Somerset House.
Okay,
yeah.
I shall go. I shall go to the summer. They do summer festivals.
And all our listeners, I say this over and over again: if you're drawn to go somewhere, go.
Okay.
You know, always act on that impulse.
Okay.
And there'll be information.
I'll
now.
stand there and absorb.
Okay. Written information. They show me bits of paper,
okay.
parchment, and things. So there will be information there for you. I want you to set an intention. We call it set intentions for this house. Okay. I don't think you have to have some of the energy that's going on here. You decide. I don't decide that for you. You decide what you want and what you don't want. This is your house. This is how they're ending up with me. There is particular need to do that upstairs in your bedroom. There is a need for it. And this lady is telling me there is a need for it.
So that's where I had the first conversation. So maybe I was a bit too welcoming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And what would you say to that, Sean? Because we've talked about this before.
If I set an intention.
Set an intention and setting boundaries and things.
And sort of, you've got to have your personal space. And all you have to say to them is, Spirit, right, please either stay downstairs, don't want you upstairs, or when I go to sleep, please leave me alone.
Because I have sometimes been woken up by sort of running up and down the stairs, and I have occasionally said, will you shut up? I've got a 7 a.m. Zoom call. Yeah. And it does stop.
It stops because it's a permission based. People think it's like something out of Hollywood where there's kind of, Freddy Krueger is kind of coming up from somebody's couch and stuff. It's not like that. It's if somebody knocked your door, a stranger off the street, and said to you, could I come in and have a glass of water? You have to pick whether you want to invite them in to give them a glass of water, or whether you want to keep them on the door to give them and say, look, here's a bottle of water, or whether you want to say, do you know what, no, go and get it, there's a shop down the road or a pub. Okay, that's your decision, and it's the same in spirit. We're just the people in spirit are people that we're here, so it's your show, it's your rodeo, not theirs.
Why do they not want to leave? Why are they still here?
People are attached to houses and areas, okay, and we talked about this before many times, haven't we? I'll give you an example of somebody I had, and we've talked about this podcast, so I won't labour it, but she came to me for a reading, and she's bought a farm, and the farmer hangs around, and the farmer's quite grumpy, okay? But she's doing things there that he does not want her to do, okay? He farmed the land, she doesn't farm the land anymore, I think they're going to kind of develop it and stuff like that. And I had to tell her, it is hers. It is hers. She's quite happy for him to be there though. She doesn't mind that. But you can be happy for spirit to be there and not let them dictate what you're doing. Do you understand?
I do.
Right?
Yeah.
So I said, if you want him to go, you tell him it's your house. Okay? If you want him to back off a little bit, you say, you're welcome to be here, but this is my decision. as to what I do, because things move on.
It's interesting you say about kind of me being open and receptive to things.
Yeah.
So the previous owner had more spiritual encounters here than I have. I've just had the one that I would actually say I saw a ghost. Apart from that, but people were picked up, people were carried downstairs, all sorts of things carried on. That has not happened in our occupancy.
And your experience was seeing somebody walk up the stairs?
I did. It was Christmas this year. I was
Can I just interrupt with that?
Yeah.
Because we'll talk, but that's an important thing to talk about. But they're nodding my head, and for the ones that are just listening to this, not seeing it, that they're telling me that didn't happen. Okay? Right?
Okay.
So I just want you to think about that. We always say that kind of thing requires a huge amount of energy. And there is a huge amount of energy here. But they're doing that.
Okay.
This is what they're doing to me. And so when you can't sleep upstairs, that is spirit. It may not be like somebody coming in the bedroom in a puff of smoke. It may not be as dramatic as that, but that is spirit.
But I do sense things walking around the bedroom when I'm on my own.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if I'm spooking my head up, but I literally, and then sometimes turn the light on and say,
But
will you just sit down?
You decide. You decide. That's the key to this. You decide what, I enjoy it. Phil doesn't always enjoy it.
I didn't really think about having a choice, so that's interesting.
No,
I just didn't want to annoy them, which is why I was so
absolutely.
polite.
No, you're
Okay,
not going to annoy them. It's just think of them like, they're going to hate me for saying this, but think of them like children, that you have to set some rules, boundaries.
I will set some boundaries. I'll have to think about that.
And especially the rule I have for when I go to bed, because we're talking about going to bed, because that's the worst time of night. We lower our vibration when we're trying to go to sleep, so we pick it up more, right? So as an example, when I go to bed, spirit know they cannot follow me upstairs. They can party downstairs if they want to, but they're not following me upstairs because I need to sleep, okay? And I have a separate rule for them. If something happens, because I've got 3 children and they're all grown up, if I'm needed for whatever reasons, or something has happened and they need to wake me up, then they can wake me up. But that is the only reason. If I'm needed, if it's family or something like that, I need to see something, right? And as an example of that, they don't now wake me up, but about 2 years ago, maybe, something woke me up in a start, and I thought, oh my gosh, what is that? And immediately looked at my phone. It was I'm going to say my youngest son. I'm going to have to. I said this story before. Gone out to Swansea, very, very drunk. Couldn't get in a taxi because he was being sick. So no, I don't feel sorry for him. It was a party night out. It's kind of. And so he was stuck there, and it was cold, and he couldn't get home, and he wanted me to come and pick him up, but I didn't hear the phone because I didn't have the phone on. And so they woke me up, and that's an example of what you need from spirit, but you don't need them to interrupt your sleep.
Can I ask them to help me with something? So if there's something I really want, which I do,
but they already know about it.
Okay, all right.
They already know. They're telling me they already know.
Well, okay, all right. Okay. Well, that's good. They could help me this time. So I nearly got it last time. It didn't. So let me get it.
Yeah, but they're also saying if something's meant for you, it's meant for you, and if it's not,
tell me that.
If it's not, it's not.
I've never got anywhere by saying that's not meant for me.
I'm gonna leave that bit with you, but then sorry, you carry on saying. I just wanted to finish off what we were talking about there.
About the stairs.
About the stairs. Yeah, tell us the story. Before we sort of end.
Yeah, so it was a Christmas, that sort of lull between Christmas Day and New Year. And normally we host Christmas here for lots of people, but this year, for a number of reasons, people didn't come from Ireland. We went to my brother-in-law, so it was just my husband and I and the dogs for Christmas, which was amazing. But I was walking through from the turret across this room here. It's about 9:30. And as I went into the small hall, I turned right to look up the staircase, the second staircase there, and I saw my husband walking up the stairs, going towards bed. And I looked into the snug and saw the lights on and thought, he's left the Christmas lights on, we've got a tree in there. And when I walked in, he was sitting on the sofa with the dog, reading a book. And I went straight back out into the small hall, and there was no one there. And when I walked in, he said, what's going on? You look like something has happened. And I said, I just saw a man walking up the stairs. And I did. I saw a man a figure dressed in black walking up the stairs.
Right, so what made you think
going
it was
left.
your husband?
I just assumed that he was he's the only person who was in the house.
Yeah.
It was just him and there were no guests. And we often have people saying there were no guests. It was literally us, and had only been us for days. And I saw.
So he was cloaked.
He definitely was dressed darkly, and it's actually weird. He also had puff clothing, like sort of puffed trousers or I don't know. Now I'm thinking back at it, he didn't. My husband's very fit, very slender, very fit. He's a personal trainer.
Yeah.
He would have been twice the size, if not 3 times the size of my husband. He was a big bloke going up the stairs.
Yeah.
You know, if I was single, I'd be cheering.
Okay. Can you see what this is? Because I can.
No.
Phil? Okay. So we're talking about 16th century clothes.
That would be about right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. And okay, this guy was some kind of executioner. Do you understand that?
All right. So was he going out to get a prisoner or something? Oh.
Yeah, because they're showing it like a sickle.
It was very dark. I mean,
Yeah.
he was dark, and I
Yeah.
have to say there wasn't a negative energy.
No,
It was very
wouldn't
slow,
be.
but I would say it
They
felt
wouldn't
a
be.
dark
Yeah.
force, but not a negative, dark,
Yeah.
nasty. That would make sense.
You should listen to it on it because we talk about this all the time. Because different energies, it's just different.
Well, I've
It's
tried not to listen to your
it's not-
podcast so I don't get led
No,
by
but
anything
you
or
can now.
invent
You
stuff.
can
Now I
listen,
can.
you
Hurrah!
listen, yeah. But they're just showing me what went on,
Oh.
and they're trying to show you what.
So
went
why
on.
has he come back or
He hasn't.
stuck here?
He hasn't, and he's not stuck. You were just seeing a flash in time. It's very, very different. Did he engage with you?
No, not at all.
Right. Do you want to? I'll let Sean do this.
And that was
'cause Sean's
that would
at the top.
originally been the outside of the house,
Right.
and outside stairs up to the
Yes.
stables. This would have
Okay.
been the original house, so
So,
he wouldn't even come into
I'm,
the building.
I'm testing Sean now, and I'll pick you up if you don't get it right.
Yeah, so you saw a moment in history,
A moment in
like a
history.
time slip. So
Like a time slip.
I saw something similar when I was a child. Where we were living at the time, there's a castle around the corner in Lacher, just
To the
outside
penny around
Swansea.
here, aren't they?
And I went up the back to see where my mother was. It was dark, and there was a Roman soldier standing in the garden, in a proper, clobber as we call it, and just disappeared straight away. When we moved out of the house, because they had to knock it down to build a bypass, archaeologists went in first before the road was built, and our house is on a burial ground. And in Swansea Museum, I don't know if it's still there, but it was about 6 years ago, there are artifacts in cabinets from the garden where I saw that Roman soldier. I just it didn't engage me at all. It just.
So that's the test. Spirit that engaged with you, like spirit engaged upstairs with the mirror, moving that. That's very different to spirit where you're seeing a time. We call them time slips here. Other people will have different names for them, but it's almost like you've heard people say, almost like a film of. But it's a slip in time that they were definitely meant to see it. It was meant to be educational for you. But that person didn't engage with you because that person had no idea you were here.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I do, and that's interesting because I thought that person was somebody else. Now, as you believe it's someone else, I'll tell you why I asked you to look at the dresser in my. I
didn't get anything from that dresser.
Because in my bedroom there is there's a quite large walk-in wardrobe that I keep my clothes in. My husband's clothes are kept elsewhere. It's mine, and I bought a Georgian dresser at auction last year from the estate of a large English aristocratic family, and I posted a video about seeing the man on the stairs, and there is a member of that family is someone who's a particular heroine of mine. She was a friend of Cecil Beaton.
Yeah.
She was very fashionable, and I adore her as I adore Cecil Beaton. So to own a piece of her family's history, wonderful. Bought that piece of furniture. A descendant contacted me and said, "I've seen your video, I think you have Granny's ghost." And said that there are a number of ghosts in the house, that I shouldn't worry. It sounds like I may have taken the ghost that was associated with that room to our house here.
Absolutely not.
Okay, cool.
No.
Because I don't know, because it would have been
I
the
can't
other
think of
side of the
anything.
wall. You didn't feel anything.
Okay, right. So I'll give you a hint with stuff, right? You know how we've been brought up with spiritualism. You buy something, you have to leave it for so many nights out in the moonlight to get rid of any attachments.
Everyone said I need to sage it
Yeah,
now.
and no, absolute rubbish. Okay, and this has been borne out in our class because I used to do a circle and teach people, right? When you own something, it doesn't matter what this is, okay? You don't have any attachments. There's nothing attached to this. Places more. So the house and the ground and where you are, yes, but not furniture, not that kind of stuff. Okay, so if I pick up something of Sean's now, say he gives me something and says, read that, I've owned that for 20 years, I can read Sean on that. If I hold that for more than a couple of hours and just do that with it, and I pass it on to somebody else, they're reading me off it.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah.
Okay, so that now belongs
Almost
to
like
you.
your smell, it becomes mine.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
So that now belongs to you. And yes, it's lovely to feel the history, and it's lovely to feel. I feel lovely sitting at this table. It's where I wanted to sit when we came in, etc., etc. I can see it's a beautiful table. The lady is here, Gladys. Okay, but she's here because of the house. She's not here because you sat. It's a position thing rather than.
No, she's buried behind your back. So
Yeah.
Literally, if you took that wall down, she's there. So yeah. And she planted the cherry tree as a child that she's buried under.
This is where they told me to sit.
Okay.
And then they changed their mind. They wanted me to go in there, and I'm like, no, I'm staying here. We'll sit here then. So position in the house is very, very important. Stuff, not so. Once you've had it for a week, it's yours.
Okay, well that's good to know. So
And it just doesn't, you know. People, other mediums like me will disagree with me, but it's been borne out. We do psychometry sometimes in the class, and people will bring something in, and if they pass it round, the energy is coming off it, and it's having that other person's energy on it. So, and that's over and over again. They start reading each other instead of reading the actual piece. So we've had that kind of, as far as we're concerned, we've had it proven to us. That's not the case.
fascinating. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, Mok, thanks for
It's
allowing
been
us
lovely,
to come
yes.
to your lovely home.
Oh, you're so welcome.
We hope it's been very insightful.
Yeah.
You know, very interesting.
Yeah.
And
I would have liked it to be more exciting for you, but I don't feel they don't want to talk about any of this Victorian stuff. They want you to go further back. They
Okay.
want you to write the book,
Okay.
and they want to be heard. Yeah. And not to worry about executioners walking up the stairs. It's just a time slip. They're just showing you what used to go on here. You know. But you do need to sort that bedroom out.
I shall do it this evening before my
Yeah.
husband gets home from
You don't
work.
need to do any, like, you don't need to sit in front of a cauldron and chuck eye of newt and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's just sit here and just say, look, you know, from this time to this time, please don't bother me.
Yeah.
And, you know, whatever you feel, what I feel comfortable with is maybe not what you feel comfortable with. But you are in charge, and if you don't, this lady's telling you, you need to learn that this is your house, not hers, not anybody else's. This is yours. You're meant to be living here. You do what you want here.
Thank you. I shall.
Yeah.
And if you'd like myself and Lisa to come around to your home, then get in touch. Contact us via Facebook or TikTok, and coming soon to Instagram and YouTube
Yes.
once Lisa's done her course. But Mark, once again, thanks very much. Until next time.
Bye.